Hi, Sagittarius. Welcome to your June 2019 Astro Update. It's Rena here, your fellow Sagittarian. And it was funny when I was compiling this list of transits for June, I was like, oh my gosh, I could see something with myself because Mars is going to be in the 8th house all month long. And the 8th house is a house of sex, death, and other people's money, as you've probably heard it described before. One of the big areas of the 8th house is shared resources or money that is coming from others in some way. And because death is also a part of it, I think of inheritances. And I just got a registered letter the other day about this estate situation in my life. And, you know, here it is, it's May. And so this is even before the June situation. And this was already supposed to be resolved. And now they're, you know, carrying it over until July. So I'm like scratching my head and going, why is this thing still alive, pardon the pun, you know, this issue. And so for some of you, I mean, this may be like very active where you're like actually going to court, and it doesn't have to be inheritance. It could be like child custody, or what do you call it? The child support, I guess you call it. And or if it's a marriage that is ending in divorce and you're splitting up the different possessions or the money that you have amassed as a couple and all of that. So for you, it may be something along those lines, and you may actually be actively in court because the sun is in the 7th house as the month begins in the opposite sign of Gemini. And the 7th house can be legal matters. So with the sun here, I mean, there may be like you may be very absorbed in whatever this is. However, the sun in the 7th house can be great for committed partnerships where you're really romantic and feeling that connection with your partner. Mars can be like all about war, you know. So in the 8th house, it's like, show me the money. I want mine, and being aggressive about it. And I don't know, something along those lines. But on the 3rd, we do have a new moon at 12 degrees of Gemini in the 7th house. So there might be new developments with some kind of a court case, or some people may be getting married or moving in together, taking their relationship to the next level. And the very next day, Mercury goes into that 8th house. So Mercury in the 7th house can be even contracts or verbal agreements. Maybe you are speaking with the court, testifying, or, you know, whatever it is, getting your side of the story in. And then the next day, Mercury goes into that 8th house. That means that there is some kind of maybe document that has to be signed. Mercury can be documents, so maybe having to do with a will or having to do with a child support agreement, and you know, what one person is agreeing to pay every month or what have you. On the 8th, Venus goes into that 7th house. So you see a theme here. 7th and 8th houses are activated. for Sagittarius. And this is also, I want to make clear, this could be relationship oriented, where the 7th house to me is kind of like the outer trappings of a relationship. So the wedding ring, the marriage contract can be the 7th house. But the 8th house is kind of like the down and dirty, the kind of the emotional underbelly. Just what is really going on within the relationship, the emotional bonding, the sexual bonding, the soul bonding. So Venus in this 7th house, when Venus goes into the 7th house, it's really making two people, or on your end of things at least, you feel this sense of harmony within your relationship. And in some cases, this could be getting proposed to, that romantic side of what commitment is all about. And Venus can bring money to the house that she transits through. So when she's in that 7th house, could be through the legal system that you're getting that money. On the 17th, Sag has a full moon in its sign, 25 degrees Sag. So this is the first house. This is the house of the self. And this could be a situation where you are seeing a certain aspect of yourself go away. If I was talking about the new moon being in that 7th house, but it could very well be you could have the new moon in the 7th house and you're getting divorced, because the new moon is simply new beginnings. When it comes to the 7th house, of course, we could look at it from the angle of legal agreements and that being the legal development that happens to be a divorce, but also the marriage as an entity. Okay, now this is a new part of the marriage. It's called leaving the marriage, that is, the divorce is part of the story. And so you can't separate the divorce from the marriage. They're all part of the same thing. And so that could really be what for some people is happening in June. And at the time of this full moon in your sign, you're like leaving part of yourself behind and you're starting anew. I guess that's kind of what I'm getting at, is that sometimes new moons are really indicating that something has ended or is ending. And by the same token, if you have a full moon in your sign and you're ending some part of yourself, that's going to open you up to new beginnings. It just has to be that way. So, so that might be something that's very significant for you. And this is happening right before the solstice. And I have to catch myself. I almost said summer solstice, but I have to keep in mind that there is such a thing as the southern hemisphere. I can't wrap my brain around it. I can't wrap my brain around it being almost winter in a part of the world, but that is true. And this is a power time. It's a time when the sun is going into a cardinal sign, in this case, Cancer. And there again, the usual suspects. This is the 8th house. So the sun goes into that 8th house. And this is a time when you may feel like you're a little bit more secretive. And this is only because there may be other things going on around you, that are making you even possibly a little bit suspicious. You might feel like people are trying to do a number on you. If you are going through some kind of a legal situation, you may wonder if you're being told the truth. The 8th house is the house of the detective, the house of the conspiracy theorist. And, this is a house of Scorpio. So there's always that refusal to accept things at face value. And maybe you have every right to feel like that because perhaps you've been dealing with people. I was going to make a joke about lawyers, but I won't. But I'm sorely tempted, believe me. No, I'm just kidding. I know some of you are probably lawyers, so and no offense meant by that. But yeah, we should be discerning for sure. And the other thing is that this can really stoke your interest in metaphysics, because that's what the 8th house can be, like esoteric kind of stuff. Even astrology fits into this category along with the tarot. So if that's something that floats your boat and you're interested in, you might be like getting into it in June. And at the same time, on the same day, Neptune goes retrograde. And it's kind of funny about Neptune retrograde because a lot of these planets, when they go retrograde, it's kind of they act all screwy and not like themselves. Well, even Neptune retrograde is not acting like itself, but it's almost more functional when it's retrograde because it kind of like exposes an illusion. So when Neptune is in a house, it can cast a bit of a fog over that certain sector. In this case, for Sag, it's the 4th house of home and family. So this has been going on. I should really nail down, when did Neptune go into Pisces, its own sign? I believe it was 2011. I can't remember. But anyway, several years ago, it went into Pisces, its own sign. And this is the 4th house of home and family for Sag and the mother. So for Sag, this may have been a time has been a time where there has been confusion in your domestic arena. Sometimes even like literally leaks, Neptune can be the water and all that kind of stuff. But when it goes retrograde, it's like it kind of takes all of the fantasy out of the picture, and it's almost harsh. It's kind of like an example would be you live in a house and you thought it was your dream house, and then you realize that it really isn't all it's cracked up to be, and yet you put so much emphasis on maybe you really had wanted this for a long, long time, and you thought that was just going to make you happy, and you realize that there's certain things about it that are not. Even like structurally, there might be problems, and that you didn't know about the house, and that could be really disappointing because disillusioning. So that probably is a great way to describe Neptune retrograde, is there can be a sense of disillusionment about whatever house it's retrograding in. In this case, the 4th house of home and family. And with the mother, it could be that case, or even your childhood. You may find out something or have a conversation with a sibling or a childhood friend about something that happened 30 or 40 years ago, and you saw it one way and you found out it was another, and you realize now that something wasn't quite as you thought it was going to be. And that can feel kind of unsettling because you had these fantasies about it. And so that's kind of what the theme, I guess I would call Neptune retrograde in the 4th house. And then on the 26th, we have Mercury going into Leo, so that is the 5th house, and this is a fellow fire sign energy. It's that doesn't seem right though. Yeah, that's not right. It's not the 5th house; it's the 9th house. Because I had done Aries reading before that, and I hadn't erased it, and I was thinking I just talked about this. Yeah, so it's Mercury going into the 9th house. And so this is higher education. So there may be some kind of, actually when Mercury is in the 8th house, you may be trying to secure like a student loan of some sort. And now you're able to enroll in college. It could be, so you could be in communication with the university. It could be, and by the way, this could be if you're teaching at a university too. It's not just as a student. This could be getting a passport because you're going to go on some kind of a long distance trip. It could be anything like, so you could be making your preparations for travel. Mercury in the 9th is about having some kind, you could be writing about spiritual matters or actually discussing them, maybe even teaching them to others in some capacity. Definitely thinking about spiritual matters. Like I told you, you are experiencing Mercury in that 8th house. And so it's almost like comparing the occult to kind of the more mainstream religions and deciding, what is right for you. Because the 9th house can be organized religion and also your philosophy of life. You might be actually being very philosophical in June and interested in metaphysics earlier on, but getting, kind of like saying, what do I believe? Do I believe more of this open-ended thing? Or do I believe in a very strict dogma that has certain, beliefs that you do certain things and you don't do certain things? And does that work better for my particular temperament? So if I had to characterize this month, I think that there is a fair amount of interaction with a partner, and also feeling, if you have felt kind of estranged from your significant other, I think this is a great month for the two of you to reconnect. One thing that I think a lot of people don't understand is that in long-term relationships, there may be periods of time that are situational. You have kids and they're young and you're just kind of like harried. So your life as a couple may be kind of strained. Or when, one person is, or maybe even both, are very absorbed in their careers and they have a lot of demands. And then there's when you're retired, that could also be a stressful time because you may not have been used to being together so much. It's just we have different seasons in life. So even a couple who basically gets along very well can be in need of a little bit of reconnection, and that could be what's happening too, especially when there's a new moon in that 7th house and when Mercury goes into the 8th house, right around the 3rd and the 4th of the month, because it's really talking with your loved one at a very deep level, not on a superficial level for sure. Okay, Sag, that's what I have for you. So I hope that you enjoyed this. If you'd like a personal reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.